Happy Monday, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps. This episode of our podcast is brought to you by Joy Greenberg, doTERRA advocate. After a hard day's work, Cindy, it is so nice to come home to the calming effects of essential oils, don't you think?
I think. I have a diffuser in my living room just for that reason.
Ah, it's so calming, so relaxing. Go to our website, peeps, to find out more information on how you can talk to Joy about the essential oils and get a calming effect in your life.
So go to howpreschoolteachersdoit.com and click on sponsor offers. The topic for today's episode was something that Alison really wanted to do. It's why do we say this stuff to kids, basically. And Alison, tell everybody what brought up this topic.
So I've heard people lately say things like your recent blog episode or entry.
Article,
The article, Crisscross applesauce, put a bubble in your mouth.
All that sort
stuff.
Of thing. Yeah. So we're going to talk about it during the episode. Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. So, Alison, that blog article that you just mentioned in the introduction, it's being shared all over the place, and I'm so happy about that.
I'm happy about that.
I actually put it as it's part of my signature this month. I decided every month when I send emails, I'm going to have food for thought, sort of, as part of my signature. Oh. And my February one is about Crisscross applesauce, because that command drives me up a wall.
Well, yeah, I think that might be why it's getting shared so often, is because
I'm not alone.
They're not alone, or people who are using that are having like this aha kind of moment of like, oh, wait, I do that. Maybe I shouldn't, and we're spreading learning everywhere. See?
Well, I hope so. I got an email from someone saying I've never heard that phrase. And I was like, really? Because where I am, it's everywhere.
All people talk about. Yeah.
That children have to sit what they call crisscross applesauce. Right. And what is that? First of all, those two words together don't even make sense.
Yeah.
Like I teach them rhyming in a way that makes sense. Crisscross applesauce. But, okay. Like I've watched teachers stop a whole class in the middle of a book and be like, okay, you're not sitting crisscross applesauce, and I'm not continuing to read until you do. Well, they were interested in your book a minute ago.
Yeah, but they're not now.
They're not now. Also, it's preschool children have trouble waiting. So when children are sitting down and you're like, I'm not starting until everybody's crisscross applesauce, that's a problem, high quality wise. Also, not every child can sit that way.
Right.
Not every child's muscles enable them to do that. And one more thing, someone pointed out to me, I was actually doing a training and someone came over to me and said, I love your blog. I read your blog. I'm so excited to meet you. Loved your Crisscross applesauce article, because I think it's the most uncomfortable position for a human being. I can't sit that way.
I agree with that. Because I've noticed my own self sitting at my meeting time, is that maybe I'll start off crisscross, but I certainly don't end that way. And it's only like 10 minutes long. So if I can't sit that way for a long period of time, why am I expecting 3-year-olds? Right?
Why are we cutting off their circulation for large crisscross?
Thank you. Oh my God, it hurts my hips after a while. And I know I'm old and I probably shouldn't be sitting that way. But
I don't
understand.
Imagine. However it is they're sitting. Frankly, honestly, I don't care if they're sitting with their legs out, laying on their stomachs, laying on their backs with their kind of up on their elbows looking at me. I don't care. As long as they're paying attention. That's the point, people. And sitting crisscross is actually a little distracting because their little feet are falling asleep.
They're falling asleep.
Like, why are we making that? Who cares how they sit? Anyway, you can see it drives me crazy. So I wrote that blog article about it, and Allison, when we were going to record today, Allison said, "Can we talk about that and the other things that we make kids do or say to them that are like, why? So if you've been telling children crisscross, applesauce, I like to break
or
down
any of the other variations of that, like pretzel legs,
All I'm asking you to do is please think about whether it really matters that much.
Right.
There was another one you mentioned, Allison.
Put a bubble in your mouth.
Oh, I can't stand that one either when I see it. And it's all over. You want children to be quiet, like put a bubble. I'm sorry, but by first grade, they're not doing that.
No, they're not. I would even say it's younger than that. But also, like, what's the big deal? Okay, so like we're in the hallway, all right? And yeah, sure, I don't want them to be loud in the hallway because I don't want them disturbing other classrooms. Or if there is an emergency and they need to hear my voice, I want them to be able to hear it. But I don't think there's any harm in having a little bit of talking in the hallway because guess what? Teachers are talking in the hallway.
Oh, you are so right. You are so okay. Yeah. So the teacher is there saying, "Okay, everybody, put a bubble in your mouth. Put a bubble in your mouth. Put a bubble." And the kids, like, now their cheeks are all puffed out, and they can't talk. And some other adult walks by and they start talking to each other. You are absolutely right.
So then in my, like, if I'm a 3-year-old, I'm thinking, well, she could talk in the hallway, but I can't. And now and not to mention, I feel like a lot of times, like when you tell them put a bubble in their mouth, they're actually holding their breath. Like they're not like, Lord. And then they're going down the hallway, which could be like a good 5 minutes at least, like in my school, right? And maybe even longer. And here they are holding their breath the entire time.
They're asphyxiating.
Yes.
They're turning blue.
Yeah. So it's like, no, I don't think that, like, if you want to teach them to be quiet in the hallway, I have no problem with that because I think you shouldn't be disturbing other people. But I don't think there's any harm in having, like, kids talk quietly to each other in the hallway because I've had awesome conversations in the hallway with kids. Like they notice like artwork on the hall, like on the walls, and we talk about it, and like things like I don't, it's not a natural thing to be quiet for that long.
I'm thinking about when I walk through the hallway with children. I do talk to them.
Yes.
I talk to them. I point things out.
Yes.
That the other classes have done. If they have bulletin boards up or something, I'll be like, oh, look.
Oh, look at this artwork. Look at this. Look at what they're learning. Like, like
I do need to be quiet. Then we just need to teach them how to do that in a real way.
Yes. Yeah.
Tiptoe with them. That's better. Tiptoe with them.
If you need them to be really, really quiet, I have used certain gimmicks. I'm not saying I'm not. Sometimes I say, okay, be so quiet. You're like a ninja. You know what I mean? But then they're not holding their breath then, but like if it's something really like a fire drill, and you need to be super quiet during, then I'll say something like that. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah, we could do that, but I'm not going to have them hold their breath and then have to actually really call the fire station.
All right. So we've come down to this. Ready? Stop sitting the children in a way that their legs fall asleep and they are uncomfortable and now are just thinking about how uncomfortable they are and they can't listen to you. Stop putting children in a situation where they're actually holding their breath for longer than they should.
Right.
Okay. Oh my gosh. I can't. And why is this? I'll say to teachers sometimes, why does this matter? I like to, especially before I wrote that Crisscross blog, I was like, why does it matter? And they just look at me and they're like, well, we don't want people to be in the way if somebody walks by. And I said to them, okay, so you teach them to move over.
Right. Teach them about space. Like I've been teaching my kids about personal space. Like, okay, so you should have your personal space. So if you want to have your legs out, I don't mind. But if somebody needs to walk by because we're doing something or whatever, move your legs just for them. Or the person could say, excuse me. Because sometimes they can walk around the legs and it doesn't bother them. But if it bothers the person and they need more space, then they'll just say, excuse me. And then you move your legs for a minute and then you can put your legs back. I've been teaching the kids at my class this like all week, because they've had a personal space issue, and now they're getting it. They're like, oh, okay, we're in the same space. I'll move over a little bit for you. And then, and they're like actually like saying it out loud like that. Like, oh, I'll move over a little bit for you, like, because they're just modeling what I'm saying to them.
And I'm going to submit this.
Yeah.
I'm going to submit this. If you really want them to stay within their body boundaries because they lack impulse control at early childhood years, what you need to do is allow them the choice of bringing a chair over to your large group time. Though I teach this, Allison. I'm just going to put it out there for the podcast listeners.
Yeah.
Please allow them the choice of bringing a chair over. It really does work. Your time will be better spent. They will sit longer, better, and pay more attention. They will have a body boundary. They won't be reaching out to each other. There are so many reasons why we need to say to kids, if you would like a chair, you can go get one. Right. They will move it. They will bring it back. They like to move furniture.
They like stuff like that. And learn to recognize it. Like if the child doesn't realize like that's an okay thing to do, because I have a little girl in my class that just recently is having, she doesn't want to sit on the floor. So when she's on the floor, she's like, kind of going all over the place, rolling around and stuff. And it is a little distracting when you're trying to do something. So I actually went up to her. I'm like, do you want to sit in a chair? And she goes, oh, I would love that. Now, if you put her in a chair, and she gets to sit in the chair, she like can sit for a really long period of time. But she didn't know herself to come up to me and say, can I just sit in a chair? But I recognized it in her. I'm like, maybe a chair would help you out, Right. And now she knows she can just go get a chair and she sits in it and then she puts it back. And I think sometimes people think like, oh, well, then all the kids are going to want chairs. Okay, let all the kids have chairs. Who cares?
What's the big deal? So all the kids can have a chair, and it works out just fine. I'm not sure why we crisscross applesauce, why we say you have to sit on the floor, why we tell them put a bubble. What's another one?
Oh, I hear this a lot. Stop. You know better than that.
Even if they understand what the right thing is to do, they don't necessarily know how to apply that information.
Right. So, but it bothers me because I'm like, here I'm teaching 3-year-olds that sometimes really don't know how to act in certain situations because they've never been in this situation before, and then you say, stop, you know better than that. No, I'm here to tell you that they don't necessarily know. You need to teach them. You need to teach them.
And again, even if they could tell you in another, let's say they weren't in the situation and you say to them, what should you do in this situation? They can tell you. That doesn't mean they can apply it to themselves in real time. Okay, Allison, how about this one? Why do we say this to kids?
Okay.
Use your words.
Oh, yeah, use your words.
If they had words, they would. Also, just because they know vocabulary doesn't mean they can dredge it up when they're upset.
Right. But yeah, I think teachers say that all the time, but then don't actually teach them like what that means. So they're like, oh, but you didn't use your words. Yeah, they don't know what that means. They don't know what words to use.
They don't know how to use them.
Yeah,
they don't know the right application.
Like if you taught them that, maybe then eventually you could be like, oh, remember those things we talked about when you're upset, you said this? Like, okay. But even then, like they're in the situation. They're not going to be like, oh, I remember what Miss Alison said four months ago about, they're not. They're just going to be like, how do I solve this problem now? They're not going to be like, going through the catalog of things they might remember you said.
The catalog in their brains of all these words.
Of all these words that they're supposed to remember, amongst all the other stuff they're supposed to remember.
Yeah, so use your words, not so great. You have to give them the words. You have to look at kids and say, tell him this or tell her that. And actually say it and have them repeat it. Okay, so let's just say there are things that we've been saying to kids forever that we really need to think about. When you find yourself saying things like the things that we've discussed, ask yourself a couple questions. Ask yourself, does this really matter so much that I'm going to spend a lot of time on this? Or is there a better way for me to help children to be able to do what I need them to do? And after you think about that, Allison and I would like you to share this episode of the podcast, subscribe, and rate us 5 stars. Till next time, peeps. Allison gave us to say goodbye to the peeps.
Bye, peeps.